What's something people don't know about Moldova? For most people, this small Eastern European country is a bit of a mystery, tucked between Romania and Ukraine. It's often overlooked on the world stage. But beneath its quiet surface, Moldova is a place where history, politics, and identity collide in fascinating ways. It's a country with deep roots, a complex past, and a population that's been pulled between East and West for generations. Moldova's story is one of resilience, of a people who have weathered empires, wars, and shifting borders. It's a land where the echoes of the Soviet Union still linger, but where the dreams of a European future are growing louder every day. From the cobblestone streets of Chisinau to the rolling vineyards in the countryside, Moldova is a nation at a crossroads, one that's quietly but determinedly writing its own chapter in European history. And just recently, Moldova staged one of the most consequential elections in Europe, an event that sent shockwaves far beyond its borders. The stakes were sky high and the fallout? Absolutely wild. This wasn't just a routine trip to the polls, it was a turning point that could reshape the country's future for decades to come. For many Moldovans, this election was about more than just casting a ballot. It was about reclaiming their voice, their dignity, and their right to choose their own destiny. The atmosphere was electric, with families discussing politics over dinner, students debating in university halls, and communities coming together in a rare show of unity. The world watched as Moldova, often dismissed as a geopolitical pawn, stepped into the spotlight and demanded to be heard. Here's why everyone from Brussels to Moscow, and even Washington and beyond, is glued to Moldova's story right now. This election was about more than just picking a parliament. It was a battle over Moldova's identity, its alliances, and its place in a rapidly changing world. The outcome would determine whether Moldova leans toward the European Union, embracing reforms and Western values, or whether it remains tethered to Russia with all the political and economic strings that come with it. For international observers, Moldova's vote became a litmus test for the future of democracy in Eastern Europe, a region where the tug-of-war between East and West is as fierce as ever. Moldova just held an election, and the results? Major. The outcome sent a clear message about the direction Moldovans want for their country. After years of political gridlock, corruption scandals, and economic struggles, voters turned out in record numbers, determined to make their voices heard. The energy was palpable. Polling stations stayed open late to accommodate the surge, and volunteers worked tirelessly to ensure every vote was counted. For many, this was a moment of catharsis, a chance to break free from the cycle of disappointment and to believe once again in the power of democracy. The Pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity, known as PAS, won a landslide victory. We're talking 55 out of 101 seats in parliament. That's not just a win, it's a mandate. Led by President Maia Sandu, PAS ran on a platform of reform, transparency, and a bold vision to pull Moldova out of the shadows and into the European mainstream. The party's campaign was fueled by hope and a promise to root out corruption, modernize the economy, and create opportunities for young people who have long felt forced to leave the country in search of a better life. For the first time in years, Moldovans saw a government that looked and sounded like them, one that understood their struggles and shared their aspirations. President Maia Sandu and her team promised jobs, less corruption, and a ticket westward, straight to the EU. For many Moldovans, especially the younger generation, this was a chance to break free from the old ways, where oligarchs and shadowy interests called the shots, and to build a country that's open, modern, and connected to Europe. Sandu's message was simple: Moldova deserves better, and together, they can make it happen. Her leadership style, calm, determined, and inclusive, struck a chord with voters tired of empty promises. She spoke of a Moldova where hard work is rewarded, where justice is blind, and where every citizen, regardless of background, has a stake in the nation's future. The PAS victory wasn't just about politics, it was about restoring faith in the idea that change is possible, even in the face of daunting odds. The mood in the capital? Optimistic, like someone just handed out free Wi-Fi. There's a sense of hope in the air, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, Moldova is on the verge of something big. Cafes buzz with political debates, and for the first time in years, people are talking about the future with excitement instead of resignation. Young people are dreaming of careers at home, not just abroad. Parents are daring to believe their children might grow up in a country that offers real opportunities. Even the skeptics are watching with cautious optimism, wondering if this time things might actually be different. The city feels alive, energized by the possibility of a new beginning. But not everyone is celebrating, in fact some are downright furious. But, plot twist, Russia was not amused. For the Kremlin, Moldova's pro-European turn is a bitter pill to swallow. Moscow has long considered Moldova part of its sphere of influence, and this election threatens to upend that balance. The Russian government has invested heavily in maintaining its sway over Moldova, using everything from energy deals to media campaigns to keep the country close. Now, with PAS in power and the EU cheering from the sidelines, Russia faces the prospect of losing a key ally in its own backyard. The mood in Moscow is tense, with officials scrambling to assess what this means for their broader strategy in the region. Moscow's media called the vote a setback. Russian commentators warned of Western meddling and accused the EU and US of orchestrating the outcome. The narrative, Moldova is slipping away and Russia's grip is loosening. State-run news channels ran segments painting the election as a Western plot, while pundits debated how Russia should respond. The Kremlin's frustration was palpable, with officials warning of serious consequences if Moldova continues down its current path. For many Russians, the loss of influence in Moldova is seen as part of a broader pattern of encroachment by the West, a narrative that fuels both domestic and international tensions. The Kremlin grumbled about unfairness, cyber attacks, and even bomb threats at polling stations abroad. Russian officials claimed the election was rigged, that Moldovan citizens living in Russia were blocked from voting, and that sinister forces were at work behind the scenes. These accusations weren't just about saving face, they were part of a broader effort to delegitimize the results and sow doubt among Moldovans. Russian media amplified stories of alleged irregularities while officials hinted at possible retaliation, including economic sanctions or restrictions on Moldovan exports. The message was clear. Russia isn't going to let go of Moldova without a fight. All allegedly part of Russia's not-so-subtle interference campaign. For years, Moscow has used everything from disinformation to economic pressure to keep Moldova in its orbit. But this time, the old playbook didn't work. Moldovans pushed back, demanding a new path. Civil society groups mobilized to monitor the vote, fact-check rumors, and expose attempts at manipulation. Activists took to the streets, calling for transparency and accountability. The message from the people was unmistakable. Moldova's future should be decided in Chisinau, not Moscow. President Sandu's team says they neutralized every attack. Talk about nerves of steel. From cyber attacks to bomb threats, the government stayed calm and kept the process running smoothly. It was a test of resilience, and Moldova passed with flying colors. Behind the scenes, teams of IT experts worked around the clock to safeguard the vote, while security forces responded swiftly to any threats. Sandu addressed the nation with a message of unity and resolve, reassuring citizens that their voices would be heard, no matter what. The successful defense of the election became a point of pride, a symbol of Moldova's determination to chart its own course. Meanwhile, the EU is basically Moldova's hype squad. European leaders have been cheering from the sidelines, offering support, funding, and a vision of a shared future. For Brussels, Moldova's success is proof that democracy can win, even in the toughest neighborhoods. The EU has pledged millions in aid to help Moldova implement reforms, modernize its infrastructure, and strengthen its institutions. European diplomats have visited Chisinau, meeting with officials and civil society leaders to discuss the next steps. The message from Brussels is clear. Moldova is not alone, and its efforts to join the European family are being watched and supported every step of the way. European leaders cheered the vote, calling it a win for democracy and freedom. They praised Moldovans for their courage and determination, and promised to stand by the country as it embarks on the long road to EU membership. The European Commission President called Moldova's election an inspiration for the region, while other leaders highlighted the importance of supporting countries that choose the path of reform. The EU's embrace of Moldova is about more than just politics. It's about building bridges, fostering stability, and showing that even the smallest nations can play a big role in shaping Europe's future. Brussels is all in, hoping Moldova becomes its next success story. So what's next? The path ahead won't be easy. Moldova faces tough reforms, economic challenges, and the ever-present shadow of Russian influence. But for the first time in a long time, there's real momentum, and a sense that change is possible. The government will need to tackle everything from judicial reform to energy independence, all while keeping the public's trust and managing expectations. The stakes are high, but so is the determination to succeed. If Moldova can stay the course, it could become a model for other countries in the region, a beacon of hope in a landscape often marked by cynicism and stagnation. Moldova's betting big on Europe, but balancing East and West isn't exactly a walk in the vineyard. The country is still deeply divided, with many citizens looking to Russia for cultural and economic ties. The next few years will test Moldova's resolve as it tries to bridge old divides and build a new future. In rural areas, nostalgia for the Soviet era remains strong, and many families rely on remittances from relatives working in Russia. The challenge for Sandu's government will be to deliver tangible improvements in people's lives, better schools, reliable healthcare, good jobs, while also fostering a sense of national unity. It's a delicate balancing act, one that will require patience, creativity, and a willingness to listen to all voices, not just those in the capital. The world's watching, because in this tiny country, the stakes are anything but small. Moldova's story is about more than just politics. It's about hope, resilience, and the power of ordinary people to shape their destiny. Whether you're in Brussels, Moscow, or anywhere else, Moldova's election is a reminder that even the smallest countries can make the biggest waves. The choices made here will ripple across the region, influencing debates about democracy, sovereignty, and the future of Europe itself. Moldova's journey is a testament to the idea that change is possible, even when the odds seem stacked against you. It's a story of courage, of a people refusing to be defined by their past, and of a nation daring to dream of a better tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more political plot twists. Moldova's journey is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. As the country navigates the challenges ahead, one thing is clear: the world will be watching. And the story of Moldova is far from over. So, buckle up, because in this corner of Europe, history is being made one election at a time.